So I'd like to start with our keynote presenter. Again, one community. We met Ken Druck very early on when the Oklahoma City families used to come to our symposium back in those days. It's hard to believe that we've had 22 of these events. But Ken has lost his daughter, and you can explain a little bit more, Ken, about the circumstances. But he is a PhD, and I want to mention that he's just released a book that came out, 3 days ago, Ken? How We Go On, Self-Compassion, Courage, and Gratitude on the Path Forward. So Ken's been a long-term friend and always a big supporter of our work. So Ken, why don't you come up and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mary. I could spend all of the time that I've been allotted thanking Frank and Mary, thanking these gentlemen who I'm meeting for the first time, Bonnie. To yesterday, for those of you who were not able to share in it, was the embodiment of resilience. It was resilience, breathing and speaking and sharing information, the collaborations, the collaborative spirit, but the resilient spirit was alive and well, and we're going to be drilling down to what the core is of resilience. We talk about this word, but what is resilience? How do we summon the courage, the faith, the understanding, the strength to go on? And we're going to be talking about that in a second. And also, I need to find my little switcher. But as we do that, I want to share with you that I am also the embodiment of resilience. You know, I started getting headaches about 2 months ago, and I went in and they said, you know what, we should do an MRI. The MRI showed that I needed to be in surgery immediately. And 3 weeks ago, I went in and I had 3 weeks, I had 3 hours of brain surgery. Now, they don't go in, they don't chip away up here anymore. As with heart surgery, they go in through the veins and arteries and they do remarkable work. And for me, when I say the embodiment of resilience, it's that, and today we're here because of an organization that is the hub. It's called Voices. But I'm going to be talking to you about the voices in here and in here, how we speak with ourselves, because sustainability, because doing this not only at 22 years, Mary, and showing up and all the people you and Frank compel and inspire to be here and to show up and to continue our work together, also involves the inner work. And the inner work is, what are the voices that I'm listening to? What voices nourish me, encourage me? So for the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, first my wife says to me, are you sure you want to go to New York and do this talk? I said, you know what? I don't know what I have. I don't know what, I'm going to stand up in front of a group of people. I'm going to be this vulnerable. What if what if I have no idea what I'm saying? What if I forget everything? I spent 2 years writing a book. What if I forget everything I know? And yet, so I'm the embodiment of those voices. I could have listened to the voice that said, oh, you're going to be terrible, cancel this, don't fly to New York. I'm from San Diego. Don't fly to New York, you're going to be terrible, you're going to forget everything. Or I could listen to the voice that said, go and be your best self and be who you are and be honest and be truthful. So here I am, and it's an honor to be with you. We're talking about today the what now moments in our lives. 22 years ago, there was a what now moment that we had never experienced. We could never have fathomed or imagined we would have to encounter. The what now moments in our lives after a loss, a change, a challenge, or even an opportunity. And you know what we faced yesterday? Yesterday was a conversation about opportunity. What is the opportunity for us to be on the solution side? To get ahead of the pain curve or the counterterrorism curve. How do we do that? So as individuals, we're going to be looking today, but not only as individuals, as families, as communities, as a nation, and as a world, because our nation is also facing that what now moment in so many ways and in so many regards. And yesterday we also talked about it in terms of terrorism and counterterrorism, because we only have so many resources. How do we not divert? How do we come together as a nation in this country? How do we embrace each other? How do we come together, even though we have different views of what's happening in the world and what's best for our nation, rather than polarizing, splintering to the point that there are national security resources that have to be diverted to us, to our communities that are needed in the greater part of the world. So there's important conversations on the table right now. How do we do this? Harvesting the opportunities of what now moments was what yesterday and today is about. What are the opportunities? We understood and we've spoken about the dangers. We've spoken about the pain and the frustration, the lingering pain, the trauma of losses and of violent losses and traumatic losses. But what is the opportunity side? And we're going to be talking about that. To gently meet a moment of truth in each of our lives is what today is about. Things that we might otherwise squander by trying to hide, deny, repress, or in any way avoid. What's showing up for us? What's arising within us? The heaviness, the fear, the concern. What is the opportunity side of that? Of that what now moment. And what are the what now moments? The loss of a loved one. For some of us, getting older. I met a couple of people who had read another book that I wrote called Courageous Aging. Yeah, I realized everything I had learned about grief and loss. When you age, you're grieving the loss of your younger self. It was applicable. So I wrote a book about aging. My goodness, because it's the loss of that past. And how do we meet that moment? How about the painfully difficult decisions that we go, the what now moments that have to do with divorce, retirement, or when somebody you love is hurting, especially one of our kids is strung out, estranged, or when somebody we love has a lingering grief or trauma. How about the existential angst that we all go through to some degree about death when we realize, my God, this is a lease deal. I thought, it was a lease to own. It's a lease? Okay. So it's not going to go on forever. And when we lose somebody, but that existential angst and the loss when we turn the pages of life, some of us are in retirement mode, and we lose our sense of identity and purpose and the structure in our lives, and we're wondering, what is the meaning of my life now? Or we lose somebody. I conduct a partner loss workshop, and I conducted it 3 weeks ago, and it reminded me all over again. And we have a wonderful gentleman here who is conducting the candle lighting ceremony who just lost his wife. How do we find meaning when our partner in this life, not only our child, for me it was my daughter Jenna, who died while studying abroad in 1996. And by the way, there's also an important conversation about how do we go on when it's 27 years later, when it's 22 years later? Do we walk around? I'm going to talk about that in a second. So today's what now moment we've already covered, and I'm not going to spend much time. But 22 years after, the grief that occurs outside of time, I wanted to make sure that people understand that not all of grief is this linear thing that goes on. It's like, how are you doing? Have you processed your grief? Well, not all grief occurs within time. Grief occurs outside of time. You can't look at your watch and say, how long has it been? People come up to me and ask me the question, well, how long ago was it that your daughter died? As if to measure, as if there was some measurement like, oh, it's been that long? So you're over it, right? You're under it, you're over it, you're around it. No, we talked before about you're through it. And people say, does it get better? And I tell them, no, you know what, it gets different. People also, the invitation, the love that never dies is another important conversation. The allowing beyond shame. What's the allowing beyond shame? People ask me how I'm doing, and I tell them, You know what? I've learned to walk with a limp in my heart. How many veterans came back from war zones and were ashamed because they walked with a limp? And that shame led to indifference, self-destruction, shame. They lived a life of shame. Well, you know what? I'm no longer ashamed that I walk with a limp in my heart. As a matter of fact, my brokenness, and one of the important things that I talk about is paradox. I live in a both and, not an either or world. Paradox means I'm broken. You can look deeply into my eyes if we were all closer, and you would see when I talk about Jenna, you would see the brokenheartedness in me that lives and that will probably live in me for the rest of my life, that my daughter's life, that she was cheated out of the rest of her life, that her life was lost to her as well as to me and to this world. Well, I'm broken, but you know what the greatest part of my wholeness is? It's my brokenness. It's the vulnerability. It's me learning to be resilient, and it's that resilient response and spirit in all of us that arises up, and we're going to talk about how it arises up in a minute. So paradox is simply, it's okay, it's both okay and not okay that it's not, it's not okay. The losses we have suffered are not okay. We get to walk with that limp in our heart. What happened is horrific beyond words. It's not okay. But it's okay that it's not okay, but it's not okay. It's both and. My daughter's gone, and I wear this little necklace with the word Hineni on it, which means here I am, and I touch it. My daughter's gone, but she's never left my side. Both are true. She's here with me right this second. I'm broken and I'm whole. Think about all the ways we trap ourselves when we live in an either or. Well, come on now. Is your daughter gone or is she here? Which one's true? Are you broken or are you whole? I'm both, thank you. Bravo. Thank you. So how do we do this? How do we make this journey? The first step, and if you remember one thing from my talk today, it's to please concentrate on taking your foot off of your throat, because we all do it, and moving it down and placing it on your heart. To replace harsh self-criticism, all the ways we pick at ourselves, we bully ourselves, we beat ourselves up, we tell ourselves we haven't done enough, we're not enough, or we're too much. Replacing harsh self-criticism with compassion, self-compassion, kindness, love, support, understanding, courage, faith, and even forgiveness is one of the most transformative things we can do. Talk about being resilient. Catch yourself. Even today as we listen, catch yourself with your foot on your throat, all the ways you talk to yourself with criticism, speaking to yourself in the voice of self-criticism, condemnation, impatience. Patience is a big one. Catch yourself doing that and move that hand down to your heart that says, you take the time you need. Please be patient. Please be kind. Please speak with kindness and support, because that's how we organically build resilience. How else? Step 2, you're a work in progress. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't fall prey to the old narratives of self-deprecation, impatience, toxic perfectionism. How many in here have a perfectionistic side that gets you into trouble? It puts your foot right up at your throat all the time. That's our work. That's the inner work. That's the opportunity of what we have to build that resilience, to build our strength, and to find our way on the path forward. Free yourself by allowing yourself to be human. You're human. I got an announcement today. Broad announcement. You're human. I'm human. I get to find that out in a big way 3 weeks ago. Sitting there having just been hit on the side of my head with anesthesia. How many people in here have had a heavy dose of anesthesia? It just, including a little bit of fentanyl in there. My God, it's taken me 3 weeks to not feel dull, to feel like, oh my God, I'm getting my brain back. But thank goodness, the gratitude side of that is having a surgeon who was able to do this work for 3 hours, and I'm standing here with you today. So thank you, Dr. Olson. Next, prioritizing what really matters. On the decision tree of all those what now moments, and each one of us and everybody you know, by the way, is also in a what now moment. The way intimate relationships are built is you find out, hey, you don't say what's your what now moment. It's like, what's making your heart heavy? What's making your heart sing? If you can ask somebody those 2 questions, you can begin to get to truly know. Get to know me. Ask me. Find out what's going on. And you'll find out what that what now moment is. But in that what now moment, we have decisions to make about what really matters. Hey, what really matters? I got a call from somebody in Voices saying, Ken, are you sure you're okay? Can you really do this? You really going to fly to New York and give this talk? And then you'll do a panel, which we'll do later? It's like, okay, I promise what really matters is my long-term health. What really matters is continuing my life as it is with my wife and my 2 grandkids who I cherish, and continuing to do the work that I do in my life at age 74. So, yeah, that's what really matters. And if I need to call Mary up and say, Mary, you're gonna hate me. I can't come. I really need to rest and recover. I'm not ready for this. That I have permission to do that. So taking honest inventory is critically important. What's making my heart sing? And to whom and what do I need to give more priority, time, and attention? And of course, who are the people that I need to say and the situations I need to say yes to and the situations that I need to say no to? Next, surround yourself with support. We've already said that. We all know this one. It's the same as the self-care one. Building relationships. Resilience is about surrounding yourself with the right people. It's coming to events like this. It's turning on your live stream if that's what you're doing, and allowing your heart to be lit up, finding that light, coming together with other people who are going to help make you the smarter, more courageous, better version of you, because they're going to bring out the best in you. Is that why we're here with each other? We're here to bring out the very best in each other, the highest in each other, to bring each other to new heights, to give each other hope, and to give each other action, and to inspire action in each other. The first town hall meeting that I led after 9/11 in New York, because I came over and for 5 years I commuted here from San Diego. In the first meeting, we had an incredible day-long workshop with surviving family members. And at the end of the workshop, the door cracked open, and one of the husbands, there were about 75 people in the room, and one of the husbands stuck his head in to see if his wife was finished. And somebody from the back of the room said, "Sir, we wish you had been here today, because we had somehow magically found laughter. We were hugging each other. We were holding each other. We were bringing out the very best of and hope in each other." And he looked in and he said, "Nah, I know how this crap works. Misery loves company." And from the back of the room, a woman's voice rang out, and I'll never forget it. And she said, "No, sir, hope loves company. Hope loves company." And that became our slogan, the center in Rockville Center. It was Hope Loves Company on the window and so many of the centers around. So, surround yourself with support and communicate with others in a tone that inspires people to want to talk, to support you. Sometimes we get into this complaining mode, don't we? We start complaining and, it's like, here's how awful it is. And rather than being vulnerable and saying, I'm struggling right now, stand with me, be with me. As my daughter used to say, she was a little girl, she'd say, "Daddy, be with." It's like, what does Daddy be with mean? It means put down the paper, put down the newspaper, look into my eyes, find out how I am, be with me, stand with me. It's what this organization embodies. It's standing with, it's walking with, it's being with, it's following, it's learning from, and designing what the programs and the needs around the needs of the people who are here, who are showing up, who need us most. Next step, summoning courage. I heard the great Winston Churchill quote before. Maya Angelou had one of my favorite quotes. Maya said, that courage is the greatest virtue. It's the greatest virtue, and a part of all the other virtues. Every other virtue is embedded with courage. So how do we summon or call up bravery from within ourselves? Whether it's newfound bravery, think about all the things that you've gone through that required courage. Going to get graduate education, who knows? Getting married, getting divorced, having kids, showing up for that first teacher conference with your kids, turning the page of a career. We've all done that a couple of times. Showing up or volunteering or signing up on a board to be a board chair. Showing up as a sponsoring organization, summoning newfound courage, calling that up from within yourself. I can do this. I'm going to do this. This is what really matters. I will devote myself to it. We're all challenged to do that, each in our own way. And so summoning up the willingness and ability to bear the pain and the sorrow over time, embrace our brokenness, walk with that limp in our heart, but also to look at the opportunity. For me, my trip to the bottom of pain, and trust me, when my daughters are the light of my life, and when my daughter Jenna died, I spent a long time at the bottom of pain. But what did I discover? My pain and my trip to the bottom of pain gave me the greater capacity of compassion. I could know the suffering of the world. I also, I was looking for the casting director. I don't know how many of you have gone through a traumatic loss where you're saying, this isn't fair. Who's pulling the strings? How did this happen? Get the casting director. Get customer service. Get a higher power. And we're looking around to see, how does this make sense? We're trying to connect the dots. And for me, I was furiously angry with God. And I was yelling at God until I realized something magical happened. When I envisioned God, and in my rage and anger, I looked up and I could see, not with my eyes, but I could see a tear in the eye of God. I could see a tear in the eye of God. God was crying with me. And that changed everything. And suddenly I realized that I had made an attribution to God and to a higher power as the puppeteer who was pulling the strings. He was there on the bus with my daughter when it flipped over. This was all contrived until I realized God is the force of love and goodness in the world for me. That's the way I hold it. But I also respect and would listen to any way that you hold it. But I think it's critically important for us to clear ourselves. Part of resilience is getting that issue clear. Is life fair? Is life not fair? And part of that is summoning faith and courage. Next is mastering self-care. I'm going to go through this quickly because we all know what self-care is. We've heard it ad nauseum. Come on, give yourself a break today. Do this, do that. I don't have to sit up here rattling what self-care is. The issue is not that we don't know what self-care is. It's that we don't do it. That we live and we allow ourselves to be held back by what I call the self-care saboteurs, perfectionism, all the things that we allow to preside over our behavior and our way of thinking. And I write about them and how we go on. Self-care is the cornerstone of resilience. It's the kindness and love and respect that we give to ourselves. And of course, it's the most underutilized resource in our health and wellness and our personal and professional growth toolkits, as far as I'm concerned. Self-care is service to one's own being, and I wonder, what would a self-care handbook for 9/11 survivors or responders look like? What would that look like? Would it look different in any way? We'll see. Giving gratitude is part of resilience. You know, the other day I was talking to a group of people and I said, you know, and in a minute we're going to talk about the thing nobody talks about, which is death and dying and the end of life and all that. And I said to them, the antidote to spending the last part of your life, not that we all live out a complete life, as we all know, but the antidote is gratitude, to spending years in dread and fear and resentment and anger about the fact that life is a least deal. It's gratitude. It's saying, how blessed am I? How blessed am I? I get to be in this human body with consciousness and awareness, a body that draws nutrients from the air. You know, I got to go through brain surgery. I get to be with you today. That's a blessing. We get to be with each other today. My sister showed up. My cousin showed up today. My family's in New York, so part of my New York family, my brother-in-law. And so, but it's also meeting you. How many of us have met a stranger, and in a few minutes of meeting them, it was a blessing in our life? It changed something. It was that moment of kindness that one of our speakers was talking about. Everything changed when she was given kindness. So is the kindness that we give, the patience, the thoughtfulness that we give to each other, a gift and a blessing that we can be grateful for? All the kindnesses people have shown us. But it's also giving gratitude to those we've lost, those who devote their lives, as the room was full of yesterday and today, our nation and our world safe, and so on. How we go on, this is what I just spoke about. Gratitude for the gifts, blessings, and miracles. And how we do it is also by paying the good in our lives forward. You know, we're all in a position to pay something good forward. It's that seventh generation thinking. How will this affect the Native American seventh generation approach? How will this affect the people in the future? How can I be a part of the solution today? Not a part of the problem, not feed the problem, but what can I be a part of today and give? I'm here giving to voices and being here for voices as a way of saying thank you. I want to be part of this. I want to give to this. I want this to grow. I want us to build resilience and learn from each other together. But this is part of the way we get to give and we get to go on. Because sometimes going on doesn't mean we're going to be alive to see the results of it. We're going to be around. 3 weeks ago, I didn't know if I was going to be here, literally. My hope and prayer for you, for voices, the responders, protectors, caregivers on the path forward, is to cultivate a life-affirming, health-giving spirit of resilience that allows you to be the best possible version of yourself and of the organization that you work with and for or run. Allow yourself to receive the kindness and support as graciously as you give it. To take permission to be human that you're learning to give yourself. Let it spread like a warm breeze across the bow of your own heart, your family, community, nation, and this world. And lastly, that voices and the other organizations that are represented here grow to their greatest heights of service, collaboration, prosperity, and leadership. Thank you. Thank you.